Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our workshop this morning. Thank you for joining us for the year before applying, What Do I Do? My name is Ashley Sylvester. I'm the director of the Pre-Professional Advising Center here at UNLV. I just want to say thanks for taking a minute to join us this morning to talk about this year before you're getting ready to apply to your professional school programs. I did ask in the chat just quickly what track you are on. I saw a couple that were interested in medical school, so if you are on a different track, dental, PA, PT, if you could just let us know, that would be great. That way I can make sure I cover all of the relevant information. So we want to get started this morning so that we can respect your time and really just talk through this, as it's titled, year before you are getting ready to apply. One of the things that I always like to mention with this particular workshop is that it is a bit of a niche workshop. There's a very targeted audience for this workshop, and so I always just like to start with letting you know that this workshop is intended for students who are planning on applying in spring or summer of 2024. So within, again, the next year or so. It is completely and totally okay if that is not your time frame for applying. But again, I did always just want to let students know prior to getting into the main content for the presentation, because it is very niche and again, relevant to the students that are applying in spring or summer of 2024. So with that said, just the few objectives for our workshop today as we talk through, we want to outline where you are in your journey to professional school. We're going to talk about how to begin to put together your program list or your school list of where you will be applying. We're going to talk through the main areas on assessing your competitiveness. We're going to talk through your metrics, your experiences, and then again, those attributes and additional components that are relevant to your overall competitiveness to professional school. We're going to talk about a few tips for success, and then of course our services, and we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. So with that said, where are you now? Again, as I mentioned, this is a niche workshop for those that are planning on applying in spring or summer of 2024. So about a year to a year and a half, which is more for summer 2024 applicants, which I see med, PT, and dental. So you all are going to be between May, maybe April, but May, and then summer, June or July of 2024. So you're almost less than a year at this point from applying. Hopefully then you have started and are well into completion of all of your prerequisite courses. So one of the things that we'll talk about when we get to the metrics portion of the self-assessment is understanding and knowing what those prerequisites for your particular program are, that you've completed a majority of those, and that you also have an understanding then of how many you may be allowed to apply with if you're going to have an outstanding prereq. But at this point, as far as where you should be now, is really heavy into all your prerequisites, if not completely done with those for your professional schools. Hopefully then you're also taking rigorous science or upper division course loads each semester. If you have been in for an appointment or gone to our intro workshop, you know that we really like to have students take rigorous upper division courses before they apply to continue to really show that upward trajectory and ability to handle the rigorous courses before the point of application. So as you finish up your fall semester here and you look at your spring semester and then maybe even summer session, hopefully that will be inclusive of rigorous science or upper division courses that are applicable to your major so that you can really show that ability to handle that rigor. You should have also been heavily involved in your experiences at this point, not at a point where you are saying, I haven't done anything, I'll just do it next semester, but you should be heavily involved in experiences, a very well-rounded applicant in clinical, community service, research. So we'll talk a little bit about that more in just a moment. And then also started researching your schools. And that's one of the first things that we are going to talk about is putting together that school list. But in order order to make sure you've completed all those prerequisites, hopefully you've already researched the schools that you're interested in applying to so that you understand the basics of prereqs and GPA, and then other areas that we'll talk about here in just a moment. So that's really where you should be at this moment, and at this kind of point in your professional school journey as you are getting ready to apply next spring and next summer. One of the things we would want you just to kind of know for the application process for right now is just a basic understanding of the process and then the application service you're going to be using. You will see a lot of acronyms here, and they are not all applicable to all of you by any means, but it is important to know that if you are applying med, AMCAS and ACOMAS are your applications. Dental is going to be ADSAS, PTCAS for PT, etc. It's important to have a sense of when those are going to be available to you next spring and summer, and then the overall deadlines. We will absolutely make sure that we advertise, put on the PPAC calendar, follow up in our application workshops in the spring on when those applications are going to be available. There are certain opening dates for each of those for application 2025. So again, those that are applying in 2024 to start in 2025, there are certain points that will come around next spring and summer on when those applications will open. You are welcome to look at these services, but please do not fill out any application because it would be for the wrong year. So you do want to, again, be familiar with the service. Make sure you note that in the spring we will be doing the application workshop where we go through each of these screen by screen. But then also know too that don't start filling it out because you'd be filling out the wrong application. Also good as far as general to knows for applying at this point, deadlines, specific programs, anything that you'll need to help keep organized as far as application submission and when your programs or schools are going to be looking for certain points in the application process. And then namely, or most importantly, what you need to prepare for the application. So, as we talk about, it's good to know the service, it's good to know the deadlines, but before we even get to all of that, that's why you're here, right? Is to know and understand what you need to prepare for the actual application process. Also want to let you know that the chat is open. I am keeping an eye on things, so feel free to throw any questions in there as we go along as well. So as I mentioned, one of the things that we really want to reinforce with students at this point in your journey is the importance around creating your school or program list. The competition for professional school admissions is high, as you all know. It is a very competitive process, and one of the things that is important in knowing if you are going to be someone that is heavily considered for admission for a particular school or program is knowing that you have picked that program or school to apply to for a reason. We know that a lot of times when we're asking students and talking to students about, well, where do you want to apply? The answer sometimes is, well, wherever is going to accept me, right? Which we do, again, understand that with the competitiveness of this journey, you do sometimes just want to go wherever is going to accept you. However, that acceptance is really contingent on those programs you're applying to because you want to be a good fit for those programs. If you've done research, you've listened to webinars, you've come in for your appointments, we really stress that admission to professional school is very holistic, and schools are focusing in more and more each year on accepting applicants who are a good fit for their program. And so what does that mean, right? It's a very vague word, and it can mean a lot of different things. And so we want you to spend some time after you get through finals here in just a couple of weeks, over winter break, really starting to dig deep into crafting your program list. And so these areas that you see here are just kind of a starting point on how to do your research. So we want students to, utilize the resources like MSAR for our pre-med students, ADEA's Go Dental for our dental students, APTA or the PTCast school directory list. Each area or professional school is going to have a resource available that lists all of the information for each of the professional schools across the country in that particular program. So we want you to use that as kind of a starting point. It shouldn't be all that you're using, but just as a starting point to put together a broader list of where you're maybe interested in applying. And then from there, we want you to start digging a little bit deeper, right? So starting with a list of about 10 to 20 schools and looking at things that you see listed here. So what is the mission statement of the school, or what is their area of focus? We do have schools, major academic institutions like medical schools that are really focused on research, clinical trials, those types of things when it's required for applicants to have a lot of research, right? You have more community-based programs, med schools, PT schools that are really focused on local communities. You have schools that sometimes are focused on rural outreach. And so you really want to read through mission statements of programs and their areas of focus, because I can almost guarantee when you get to a secondary application, a supplemental information question and or an interview, they're going to ask you why you are a mission fit. And you will need to understand and be able to break down the mission of that program and articulate to them why you are a good mission fit. So it's important as you're doing your research to look at those mission statements and their focus areas and know that your background demonstrates the fit of you as an applicant to that particular program. Other areas that you want to look at, the programs offered. Are you interested in doing dual degree programs like an MD, MPH? What type of programs are offered? A curriculum and teaching methods. There's a lot of variance in curriculum, teaching methods from PBL to block systems. Do you have to go to lecture? Is it mandatory for you to attend lectures? Where is the clinical that you're going to be doing? What hospitals or dental clinics, PT clinics, outreach do they do? It's really important to take a peek at the curriculum, the teaching methods, so that you're familiar with those. One of the things students tend to look at, but is very important, is that last bullet point, which is the support and the wellness structures that are in place for students. It's really important, y'all, that the schools that you want to attend have really good support and wellness structures in place for you as a student. You all know at this point, this is going to be a really stressful, rough time in professional school. It's not going to be easy. And so you want to make sure that the schools that you are applying to have really good support and wellness structures. Do they have support staff? Do they have learning resources? Do they have cooking classes or yoga, or do they have student interest groups that you're interested in? So those are important to take a peek at as well, to know that if you were accepted to that program, you have a good sense of wellness and support as you go through your medical or PT or professional school program. Other things, preparation for USMLE or your licensing exams, very important metrically, looking at graduation rates, looking at where students match for medical schools, where are they doing residencies. For dental schools, are students going on to different fellowships or specialties? So it's important to look at that metric piece too, preparation for board exam and graduation rates. And then GPA and test score requirements, obviously making sure that you meet the requirements of the schools. Location, where do you want to live, right? I know for some people we talk to, it's like, I want to get out of Vegas and go to a different part of the United States and experience a different area and type or style of living, different cultures, different populations, rural, urban cities, bigger cities than Vegas. So, where is it feasible for you to relocate if you need to? Specific prerequisites, size and demographics of the programs that you're looking in. You will have medical schools or dental schools that are as low as 60 students to those that are 200 to 300 students. So, what type of learning are you best at in terms of the environment, and what is the size of the schools that you're looking at applying to make sure that you are successful. And then of course cost to attend, right? It is important to look at overall cost of attendance, not just tuition but cost of living. You all know you're not going to be able to work during this process, so what is the cost to attend? Scholarships that are available, do they have a process for applying to scholarships? Are they merit based? Are they financial based? What type of financial assistance is available through these schools? So again, a lot of things to think about in terms of crafting that school list. But what we want really at the end of the day is for you to take all of this and most importantly figure out and have a solid understanding that when you say, hey, here's my 15 schools or here's my 18 schools, that you are a good fit, right? You've done your research, you're able to answer questions in a very genuine and authentic way when they are going to be asking you, why are you a good fit for our program? What value do you bring to our particular dental school or PT school or OT school? It's very important that you understand those are the questions that will be awaiting for you in the secondary and supplemental and interview questions, and you really need to be able to articulate through your background, through your experiences, through your personal growth, again, the values that you're going to bring, why you are a good fit for that particular institution. So how do you put all this together? We have documents, we have handouts, we have resources for you. So we do have a choosing your programs document that we do have available that we are happy to send you and work with you on to help craft that school list on our website. If you do just want to get a sense of where our UNLV students have been accepted in the past, I know some students like to just see, okay, well, where have our students been admitted before? Where have, UNLV pre-PT students been accepted and matriculated? We do have 5 years of historical data on our website as well, so you can use that as kind of a starting point. And then of course your professional school self-assessment tool. If you don't have your digital planner, if you are unsure of what I'm talking about when I say your PSAP, please make sure you follow up with your professional school advisor, your PPAC advisor, so that we can get you that PSAT or what we call the digital planner. So you have a centralized area to keep track of all of this research that you're doing. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're going to do a little bit of self-assessment. Excuse me. And so this is really an opportunity that, although I'm going to go through quite a bit of information, we really want you to, self-assess during these next few minutes as we talk about metrics, experiences, attributes, competencies, additional components, etc. Because at the end of the presentation, again, the goal is for you all to apply next spring or next summer, but we really want you to take the next few minutes as we talk about each of these areas to do a self-assessment on if you are indeed ready to apply, right? We really want you to just make sure you understand, yep, I'm good, I feel empowered, I feel confident to go through with this application process, or I'm almost there, I just need to finish up a few things in the spring semester. So let's go through each of these areas and talk about where you should be and what you should be preparing as you get ready to apply. So for your metrics, as I mentioned earlier, your prerequisites are going to vary from school to school. So you want to make sure that you have a comprehensive list of all the programs that you are thinking about applying to, and that you have all of the prerequisites covered. Whether that be they are already completed prior to applying, or if you are going to have maybe 1 to 2 outstanding prerequisites when you submit your application that will be in progress, that is okay per the school's policy. There are some schools that are absolutely like, you have to have these done, no exception prior to application. There are other programs along professional tracks that are okay with 1 to 2 outstanding prerequisites. So you want to make sure that you are familiar with what those policies are, so that there are not any instances where you may have a conditional acceptance with an outstanding prereq, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I can't get into the class, right? So make sure you have a really solid understanding of those prerequisites and completion. If you are able to, I realize we're talking 1 semester right before you're getting ready to apply, but along the lines of recommended coursework, as you do your research into your professional programs, you are going to very quickly say that they say, here's the required prerequisites, But here's also all the recommended courses that we encourage. Again, not required, but recommended. So upper division anatomy and physiology, genetics, micro, molecular, virology, statistics. I'm not sure if I have any pre-law students on here, but upper division ethics courses, critical reasoning courses, business and legal writing courses, technical writing, or if you are in a major outside of sciences, again, completely okay. If you have any wiggle room for an elective or two, these are just really great classes if you're in more of the health sciences area. And then again, if I do have any pre-law students on here, anything that will help in that upper division trajectory and showing the ability that you can handle the rigor, right? So again, recommended but not required. You do just want to make sure you have the prerequisites done, however, that are applicable to the programs that you want to apply to. And then, of course, as I mentioned, keeping your grades up. These last few semesters before you apply are very, very important to be able to show rigor of the upper division courses and your ability to do well in that. So really making sure that right before you submit that application, they see that upward trajectory in those rigorous upper division courses. To echo that, again, it's not really the time to take it easy, right? You don't want to back off just because you have MCAT and application and those types of things. One of the things that professional schools across the board want from their students is demonstration of the ability to handle a rigorous curriculum. Going into law school, med school, PT school, PA school is exceptionally hard compared to even what you're doing now in upper division classes and full-time course loads in your upper division courses. And so they really want to make sure that you're showing that ability to handle the rigor. So don't back off or take it easy. Really just be proactive in what it is that you need to do so that you can be successful in these courses this semester and next semester. And then, of course, with anything that you have planned or in progress for next summer or next fall. Keeping in mind just a few of the technical requirements around prerequisites. Usually schools, if required around prereqs, have a C or higher. Courses should be taken for a letter grade. Obviously, there are some exceptions with the pandemic. If any of you took any prerequisite courses during 2020 or 2021, please ensure that you are doing your research into acceptance of S or U grades for prerequisite courses for the programs you're interested in applying to. One of the things that we learned very quickly as advisors through that time is that schools can have very different policies around acceptance of S and U grades for prerequisites. So please make sure you understand if that applies to you, that you are okay with any S grades for prerequisites. If you have questions or need to go over that with anybody, please make an appointment with your PPAC advisor. And then if I do have any pre-law students on here, again, prerequisites are not required for law school, but it is very important to understand letter grades, S grades, trend of taking S grades over time. So please make sure you come in and talk with us if you have any questions about that. And then knowing your GPA. Hopefully all of you on here have done a professional school GPA calculator, because as you do your research and they say you need to have a 3.2, you need to have a 3.0, average GPA is a 3.7. That is your professional school GPA. And so if you haven't done a GPA calculator and you have transfer credits, you have repeat credits, you have courses with an S grade, anything like that, you need to make sure that you understand that your GPA for your UNLV transcript can be different compared to what your professional school GPA is. So again, if you have not done a GPA calculator that calculates your cumulative, your science, your all other GPA, it's really important for you to do that GPA calculator. Let us know if you have any questions about that. We can help you with that process. But what we don't want is for anybody to think they have a certain GPA and then they go to apply and they're no longer eligible. And unfortunately, it is a heartbreaking situation. We've had that before. So just make sure you understand your GPA. Christian, I see your question in the chat. I was planning on taking a gap year to gain experience and strengthen my application. Will I lose access to PPAC resources after I graduate? As long as you are active with the PPAC during your undergrad, you will not lose any access to our resources once you graduate. We are still more than happy to help students who were active with our center during your undergrad. So absolutely, you can still call and make an appointment. We'll just make sure that you do have a history with the office. And then just keeping in mind too, the website, the PPAC resource board, those are all open to everybody. But yes, as long as you are active with your PPAC advisor during undergrad, we are more than happy to still help you during that gap year. No problem at all. Okay, so finishing out with metrics then is the last piece to your metric portion of your application, which is your professional school test. So obviously each different track is going to have a different professional school test requirement. So if obviously medical for MCAT, dental for DAT, law school for the LSAT, pharmacy for the PCAT, although that is going away as a requirement for some programs, PA, again, GRE, but again, that's also starting to fade for some programs. So if you have not already done your research, hopefully, again, at this point in getting ready to apply for spring and summer of next year, you have either taken this test or you are well into studying for this test to take it in the spring. As we do encourage students to take between January and July. For my law students, if I have any pre-law students on here, June is an ideal time to take that first LSAT. For the rest of my healthcare students who are applying between April, May, June, July, it's good to have that first test in by March or April. So you should be well into studying if you have not already attempted this test yet. And so if you have questions about your timeline, if you have questions about study materials, we have links and resources on the PPAC resource board. I'm not sure if you know, but we have a test prep book inventory in the PPAC. We have free MCAT book sets, GRE, DAT, that are all available for free for you to check out. So that is available to you as well. But for the metric portion, this is the other extremely important piece to that component of your competitiveness as an applicant. You will have minimum test scores for a lot of tracks that you will need to hit. And for those that don't provide minimums, you need to understand what the average is. Even if it is providing a minimum, you need to understand what the average professional test score is for students that are being accepted. And you want to be around that average in order to really feel confident in your overall competitiveness of an applicant. So again, resources, we have the test prep material. Sometimes I get a little ahead of myself on these screens because I've done this so much, but we have lots of resources available in the PPAC office as far as test prep books that you are more than welcome to check out. On our PPAC resource board, we do have a link to most of the resources, actually all of the resources that you see on there, Kaplan, Princeton, AAMC, all of those are areas or companies, test prep resources that are available to you as a student. We also try to put out free scholarships, so always keep your eye on your email from the PPAC if there's any scholarships that we have for any of these test prep companies. But again, at this point in your journey, knowing that it's December, you should be well into studying, if not have already attempted to take your test. And for my pre-med students, MCAT registration for the spring opened up back in October. So if you have not scheduled your test for the spring, you really need to get online and get that done because dates are filling and locations are filling. And the worst thing is to have to travel to take that test, right? So we want to make sure you stay local. And then if I do have any pre-law students, LSAT dates are released periodically for your test starting then in 2024. So metrically speaking, last thing, I just wanted to put up the averages just so you're aware from a national perspective, as well as if you look at our local institutions, our local med schools, dental schools, pharmacy schools, etc. This is really where we fall with your GPAs, again, as calculated by professional schools, your MCAT, DAT, GRE, etc. So just to give you an idea of what is considered average and where you should be with the competitiveness for your GPA. All right, so let's move on to your experiences next, right? So we talked now about the, again, technical metric components of your application just to make sure that you can actually hit submit and be considered. The rest of the application materials that you should have been heavily working on to this point are really the subjective pieces to your application, but extremely important, again, to showing you an overall fit for that professional school as well as value that you're going to bring to that future profession. And so when it comes to your experiences, again, at this point in your journey, about 5 to 6 or 7 months before you apply, you should be a very well-rounded applicant at this point within your experiences. You should be having or have had community service or be participating in your clinical experiences, shadowing, whether that be a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, doing internships. You should have a direct patient care. If I have any PA students on here, you should have hundreds, if not thousands of hours of the direct patient care as required by PA programs. My PT students or OT students, you need to make sure that you have those required observation hours. You should have leadership experiences, potentially involvement on campus, paid employment, extracurricular activities, research. These are all areas that kind of serve as your resume for professional school. This is the way that you are going to demonstrate that you are a qualified applicant for your professional school, as well as the value, again, that you're going to bring to that professional school program and to the future career as a lawyer, a doctor, PA, etc. So you should have a resume at this point. You should be starting to write out your experience descriptions. You should be keeping track of your hours. And, again, keeping track of the types of experiences that you've been doing to see if there's anything that we need to just add over the next 6 to 8 months. Your experiences should be meaningful to this point, right? It shouldn't just be the check the box mentality. These should be meaningful experiences that really show the competencies and attributes, and again, that value that you're going to bring to that future professional school, as well as the career within that area. So again, experiences, you really want to take this as, okay, I'm 6 to 8 months before application. I should have a lot of this done. I should be very well-rounded in these areas, and maybe just the spring semester is going to be a continuation of a meaningful experience or experiences, or if you do have time to add anything, you're more than welcome to, and then just continue that through the point of application. But this is an area that should not be at this point something you're saying, oh gosh, I don't have clinical. Oh gosh, I don't have my observation hours. I don't have community service. You would really at that point want to come in and talk to your PPAC advisor about where you are and if you are competitive within that arena of being a holistic applicant. So one of the things that we encourage you to do more on the technical side of things is when you fill out your application to professional school, it is going to ask you a lot of information about each of your experiences. If you do not have some type of tracking mechanism, a spreadsheet, a Word document, your PSAT, you really need to be proactive in starting to obtain and get this information about your experiences because it will be much less stressful. I can promise you it will be much less stressful if you have all of this ready to go when the application opens up next spring or next summer versus trying to remember, oh my gosh, how many hours did I do? Oh my gosh, I don't have a contact person for that particular organization, or I haven't written my descriptions yet, or I haven't tied them to competencies. So now is the time to start documenting all of this. Again, if you don't have your PSAT or your digital planner, we have an area, a tab on there for your experiences and all of the tracking. So we have a centralized place to help you with this information. But again, I can promise you the more proactive you are in gathering this information now, the much less stressful it will be when your application opens in the spring or next summer. And then again, with your experience descriptions, starting to write out your actual descriptions, which are not bullet pointed pieces like you're used to on a resume. Your descriptions of your experiences are character counted, anywhere between 600 to 750 characters hours, depending on your track. And you will need to write very genuine, authentic, intentional experience descriptions around why you got involved. What did you learn? How did you grow from this? And so it takes time, I promise you. Students tend to think, oh, that's no big deal, I'll just get to it in the spring. And then they automatically come back to me and they're like, oh my gosh, that was way more work than I expected. So again, if you do walk away, hopefully with a lot from today, but with your experiences, please walk away knowing this is an area to be more proactive in. It will save you a lot of time and stress in the spring when you're getting ready to apply. So most of this we've covered here in terms of those must-knows in your experiences. So again, hopefully you're sitting here thinking and self-assessing around, okay, am I ready to go? Am I competitive? So again, are those must-knows as far as being meaningful, not just to check the box, reflecting on competencies and attributes. When you think about a clinical experience, when you think about interning with a lawyer's office, when you think about your direct patient care as a phlebotomist, when you think about your community service, competencies and attributes. What are those things like critical thinking, scientific inquiry, cultural competency? Those are attributes and competencies that these schools are looking for. And your experiences are the areas for you to tie those two. And so really thinking about, okay, what do I want this description for this experience to show about me? And what attributes and competencies do I want that to reflect? Showing commitment to serving others, your dedication to your healthcare or the profession of law. Again, longitudinal is good. This is about quality, not quantity. It doesn't necessarily elicit good, meaningful descriptions if you're doing like 2 hours here, 5 hours there, 3 hours there, right? We want longitudinal. Schools like to see commitment over time so that it is a more meaningful experience. And then the hours requirement, obviously the exception to that, direct patient care for any PA, PT and OT, you have observation hours. Other than that, though, we really just want you in those longitudinal, meaningful experiences. And, that last point, while it does sound a bit harsh, there's a reality to this, y'all. This can break your application. We see students with beautiful metrics and a really great personal statement, really great letters, but they just don't have the experiences. They rush the application or they just don't take the time and invest the time into this part of the application. And so as you get ready to apply next spring and summer, this is a very important piece to your overall competitiveness, and you should be well into this process as you get ready to apply. These are the attributes, as I mentioned. So things, again, integrity, leadership, ethics, cultural competency. This is an area where we see students not spend as much time as we would like, but again, want to reinforce the importance of understanding these are things that schools are looking for in your application. And so you can probably tell this is a demonstrate, this is a show, don't tell, right? This is something that, you can say all day long, I'm a really great leader, or I'm a dependable person. I'm a good critical thinker, but that doesn't hold much weight, right? How are you going to show that you are these things? How are you going to demonstrate through your application process, through the entirety of the components of your application, that you are reliable, that you do have experience with teamwork, that you are a good critical thinker? These are tough questions, y'all. I know that. We ask these all the time, and we do not try to, underestimate the challenge around how am I really going to demonstrate these things, but they're so important in the process. And so regardless of if you are PT, OT, etc., this AAMC Anatomy of an Applicant booklet is an excellent resource for you to start doing self-assessment around these competencies. It's going to make you dig deep. It's going to ask you, where are you? Self-assessment, right? Reflection. Where are you on being a good team player? And then if you say, yep, I'm really proficient, then it's going to ask how. How are you going to demonstrate that? What are you going to show that proves, right, that you are a good team, you are good with teamwork? And so this is a great resource that regardless of what track you're on, even though it does come out of the med school, it's a really great resource to work your way through. You can Google it. It'll come up as a PDF. We do have printed copies in the PPAC if you want to stop by and grab one, but absolutely worth your time as you get ready to finish out those experiences and your descriptions. All right. Don't see any questions so far, so I'm going to continue rolling here. But again, if you're thinking about anything with your metrics or with your experiences, please don't, feel free in the chat to ask those questions, or you can come off mute if you would like to, since we are a smaller group today. But last but not least, let's talk just a bit about additional components. So again, these other pieces to your application that at this point in December, 6 to 8 months before applying, these are the things that we need to be working on. And this is kind of where you should be within each of these areas. So your personal statement, at the very least, you should have a document on your computer, a Word doc, or it could be a notebook if you like handwriting. Something should be created at this point that is the start to a personal statement, that maybe is halfway through a personal statement or your first rough draft of a personal statement. We put first thing on there. This is not an area to rush. Okay. Again, we have students that think, oh, I'll just do it in the spring. It's no big deal. You will go through 10 to 15 drafts of your personal statement. I realize that's a lot. I realize some of you are like, yeah, right. Ash, that's not, I'm going to be like 2, 3, I'll edit it and I'll be good to go. I can promise you from experience, you will go through a significant number of drafts in your personal statement. And this is, besides your experience descriptions, the area for you to tell the admissions committee who you are, why you're passionate about this particular career, and that you understand the role of what you want to aspire to. There is a lot of weight into your personal statement. It is absolutely your chance to use your voice and tell your story. And so this is not the area to rush. This is not the area to think, oh, I'll just do this last minute. Please, again, if you don't have something started at this point, you really need to spend some time getting started on something. You may have a letter of recommendation writer, which we'll talk about in just a second, that you're going to ask in January or February for their letter, and they may turn around and say, I need a copy of your statement, your personal statement. We do not want you to have the deer in the headlights look at that point, right? So be prepared that not only for refinement and editing and not rushing this for your application, you may get requests from your letter writers on wanting copies of your personal statement. So again, these are very brief snippets around how to craft your personal statement. We do full personal statement workshops. We have a YouTube video on our PPAC YouTube page, which is about a 22-minute personal statement workshop video that you can also watch. And then we also have our personal statement brainstorming sessions that you can sign up for, which are 20 minutes to sit down with a PPAC advisor and just start talking through your statement. One of those, the workshop, the brainstorming session, or the online video workshop, has to be completed if you would like your editing done by a PPAC advisor. We do need to see one of those 3 things completed prior to us editing your statement. So again, if you haven't gone to a workshop yet, I would suggest at this point in December that you just watch the YouTube video online and then do the really short 2-question quiz at the end, and you'll be good to go. But this is something, again, at this point in your journey, you should be having something on a piece of paper in regards to a personal statement, and continue to work with that throughout the spring semester so that you have a final beautiful draft when you're ready to apply. Again, reiteration of those 3 things that we need to have done prior to your being reviewed by a PPAC advisor: the full-length workshop, the brainstorming session, or again, that YouTube video that we have on the PPAC YouTube page. All right, and then letters of recommendation. We're getting close to the end here, I promise, right? This workshop tends to be just a bit longer because there is so much information to go over with this point in the application process. So bear with me, but again, just know You being here today, and while overwhelming and a lot to think about, is really, really a great first step in making sure that you are being proactive and you are understanding what needs to be done over the next 6 months so that you can plan appropriately, and so that, you know, when the application comes around in the spring or summer, you're not in super stress mode, right? So again, I know this workshop has a lot, but it's meant to be that way to really, again, make you feel empowered to do self-assessment and self-reflection on your competitiveness, but also provide, like, hey, you really need to be on track with these things at this point in the process. So letters of recommendation, and then we'll finish up. At this point, letters of recommendation, where you should be, you should have a solid idea of two things. One, what types of letters and how many your professional school programs you're applying to are going to require. Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 5? Do you need a practicing healthcare professional? Do you need a lawyer? Do you need a community service letter? Do you need 2 academic letters from science professors? You should have a really solid idea right now of how many you need and from whom, based on the programs you're applying to. The PSAT, or digital planner, has a tab on it that you can keep track of all of this information. So again, I know I'm telling you a lot to make sure you have that digital planner, but I promise you it was crafted with intentionality around all of these areas so that you have a central place to keep all of this information. So that's the first thing, is that knowing what type and who those letters are from. Second of all, you should have a relationship with the people you are asking for letters now. Okay. One of the, again, heartbreaking things that we see is students who come to us in late spring or the summer and they say, Ash, I don't have a letter from a science professor. And it's tough, again, because I wish I could tell students something else other than, if you don't have it, you're not going to be able to submit to that particular program. But there's a reality amongst that, right? These letters are going to be required. You need to know who they're from, and you need to not put yourself in a position that you don't have a particular type of letter when it comes to the application, because honestly, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to have the required letters for those programs, right? So that's why we say, you know, now is the time. You should already have relationships, working professional relationships with these people that you are going to ask, so that when you get to the point of asking in the spring, this is not coming as a surprise. You're not going to be met with, I don't know you well enough, and that you can be confident that you are going to get a strong letter of recommendation. So again, if you're worried, or if you're going, oh gosh, I'm good on the professors, I'm good on community service, but I really need to work on my relationship, my professional relationship with a lawyer or a healthcare professional so I can get a strong letter, now is the time to do that, okay? So that you can be confident in all of those areas. I have a question in the chat. Would a research professor, the research was done in a class format on bacteriophages, count as a hard science professor? So Vicki, I think as long as it's within a biology, a chemistry, biochemistry, or physics arena, that the class was within one of those subject areas, it could count as an academic letter. Yes. If you want to follow up with your PPAC advisor to give a few more specifics, you are more than welcome to. But as long as it's within one of those areas, you should be good as far as a hard science professor. Great question. As far as timeline then for asking, the early spring is a good time to start asking for those letters, so that you're providing your letter writers anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks to craft your letter. You will be putting their contact information into the application when it opens. Please do not accept a letter personally. It is no longer an unbiased letter if you take that letter from the writer. So you will just want to let them know that you'll be putting their contact information directly into the application, and that they will submit their letter electronically that way. You will never see the letter of recommendation. If you want to gather a letter early, there is a service called Interfolio that is a letter storage service. Not all professional applications utilize that service, meaning that they don't interface with them. So you just have to be careful and do your research on if your application service interfaces with Interfolio so that you can pull those letters over. If it does not, then unfortunately, you're just going to have to kindly ask your letter writer to hold on to that letter, and then you'll submit their contact information directly into the application, and then they will submit their letter, upload that electronically, and you will never see it. Okay. So again, but the most important part around this at this point in your journey, know the letters, what type, and then you should have a really good working professional relationship with the people that you plan on asking. All right, so a few tips for success. So we do have our Refine document that is a 2-page overview of everything that we just talked about, right? So if you need something to refer back to, again, I am recording this for the intention of putting it onto our YouTube page, so it will be there as well. But we, continually make updates to these documents and to the information based on the process of applying to professional school and how that evolves. So we do have our Refine document that you can refer back to. Again, remembering everything you have to do for the spring semester that you are applying or the summer semesters that you are applying, everything that we've just gone over. Again, I know it's overwhelming. There was a lot that we chatted about today, but you all be proud you're taking the correct first step in getting your head around all of this information, so that you can maybe spend some time over winter break getting yourself organized, maybe come in and meet with a PPAC advisor before spring semester starts so you can just make sure that you're on track with everything. Obviously paying attention to opening dates of applications when those are ready, making sure you're signed up by any deadlines or opening dates for those professional school tests. And then the last point is not an area that we like to spend time on, but we have to. The cost of applying to professional school is not cheap. Okay. I don't even want to try to sugarcoat it, right? Because there's a reality to this, between application costs, secondary fees for applications for professional schools, your professional school test prep materials, registering and registration fees for your test, your professional school test. If you're going to have to travel for an out-of-state interview, if it's going to be in person, maybe buying a new suit or a new tie. Anything that you can set aside to offset the cost of this, I would encourage you to do so. Again, I know that this is a very sensitive area. There are absolutely resources out there, application fee assistance programs, test prep resource assistance programs. Please come talk to the PPAC advisors about those. Get familiar with those through AAMC or through ADEA, so that you know if you are going to be applying for those fee assistance programs that you're ready to go, you meet deadlines, and you have the correct material. But please come talk to us about those programs and resources if you need some more information, because again, just know that while we don't like to spend a ton of time on it, and it is a sensitive subject, there is a reality to the cost of this process. And so we just want you to be prepared for that. So again, anything that you can save and set aside, will be helpful for you. So last few tips for success: utilize your resources. Okay, us to keep it simple. No, I know there's a lot of things out there, but that's kind of why we have that second bullet point on there about being careful about who you use for information, right? And who you trust for advice. The one thing that we want students to know and understand is, while it is human nature to compare yourself to other applicants, you have your own unique journey. And while so-and-so may have been accepted to law school or PT school or med school because of XYZ, does not mean that that's the reason you are going to get accepted or rejected from professional school. Everybody has their own unique journey, but so please make sure you're utilizing, the PPAC. This is what we're here for. Your advisor in the PPAC, your pre-health orgs or pre-law orgs on campus, the professional organization websites. Okay. I know Student Doctor Network exists. I know Reddit exists. I know other websites around or those type of website exists. Just be very, very careful about what you read on there. It's often inaccurate. So just, again, be careful on where you're getting your advice and your information. please just know, while we understand it's a vulnerable conversation to come in and have with a PPAC advisor, we are absolutely here to help, and we want to make sure that you succeed. So with that said, keep up with the PPAC, check your emails, go to our events calendar, come to our workshops, keep an eye on the PPAC resource board, and then obviously come in for at least one appointment per semester. Although as you get to this point in your journey, you will probably be coming in more often to meet with your advisor because there's so much to think about. And then last but not least, y'all, practice patience, okay? It is a 14 to 16 month process to apply to professional school. And it is sometimes excruciating when you get to the fall semester after your applications are submitted, your secondary applications are submitted, to sit there and hit refresh on your email, waiting for interview invites, waiting for admissions decisions. So it's really good to have those self-care techniques, self-care, how you do self-care, practicing patience. It's good to engage that now because it is a very long cycle. And we know that you get very antsy, and that's okay, but just understanding that a lot of patience is going to be needed with this process once you get into it. And our services, we help with everything. Literally, summing up this page very quickly, we are literally here every single day. It is our job to help you with every facet of this process. So please, if you have not come into the office before, please come in and see a PPAC advisor, especially if you are at this point in your journey. This is when we want to see you to make sure that you are on track and have everything ready to go. Utilize, again, our website, our YouTube page, the PPAC resource board. We have our PPAC Discord. We have the web campus course where you can also find all of this information. So if you do not have the links for those things, please feel free to email me directly or the PPAC email, and we can make sure that you have access to all of those resources. And here's our contact information. We are at FDH 352. Our phone number, our email, as well as our obviously website, link to social media. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and then again our YouTube page. If you are looking for an appointment, just as a heads up, our two senior advisors in the office are currently booked through almost Christmas break. So if you do want to get on the calendar, please call us. I know email is tempting because it's quick, but what happens is the student will email and we'll send them back dates, and then you may wait a day or two to respond, and then all those dates are booked already. So if you want to have access quickly to appointments, please just give us a call and we'll get you set up immediately while you're on the phone. And then obviously we do have our walk-in hours too. Wednesdays from 1 to 4 we do have walk-ins. Please keep in mind those are for very quick 10-minute appointments. That is not meant to come in for a full, hey, tell me if I'm competitive. Those are meant to be very quick appointments. If you need them, just know that those are on Wednesdays from 1 to 4 o'clock. And with that, do you have any questions? I'm going to go ahead and stop recording, and then I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.